going to be talking about the ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 for a very long time to come. And we're going to keep wondering about how close we came to picking up the cup. Even as the disappointment and heartbreak lingers, there's also a great deal of pride, admiration, and respect for this Indian cricket team, which many believe is one of the best, or perhaps the best Indian cricket team ever. Photographer Rohit Chawla has seen cricket teams and cricketers up close for over 3 decades, capturing iconic moments, witnessing high-octane emotions that are on display in these iconic moments. Now, he has had one of the best seats in the house at this tournament, and I'm glad, Rohit, that you're going to be telling us about your experience in this tournament that has just gone by. Lucky devil you.
No, it's all very good, but we did lose the final, so there's a bit of a disappointment to say. But anyway, I saw the team up close and personal, and it was an incredible 45 days. We saw some great cricket. India just had a bad day on Sunday. I won't even say a bad day, but some of the cricketers did play badly. So I have my list of villains to the piece also, but which we can talk about if we want to. But anyway, you asked me, because I've known these cricketers for the last 3 decades, purely because I used to work on an account called Pepsi. And
so you shot many commercials with them, isn't it?
Yeah, I shot a lot of commercials. It started with Sachin, and then basically the entire cricket team at one point was the Pepsi cricket team. So one has known all of them up close in person. And I don't know this team very intimately because this is a new team, and also in the last couple of years, the team and the cricketers never needed the media. So they never chased us. It was us doing the chasing. So a lot has changed since the 90s when I started shooting.
Actually, Rohit, very briefly, let me tell people a little bit more about you. So Rohit is an award-winning photographer, and unlike other photographers, he straddles 3 rather different worlds very, very comfortably. And those 3 worlds are the world of commercial photography. You just heard him talk about the Pepsi campaigns that he's worked with, and therefore how he's seen these cricketers as models on his stuff. He's also done a lot of editorial photography, which is being in the moment, capturing iconic moments. And he also does fine art photography. So that's just a little bit about Rohit. So Rohit, this transition, so much has changed. Before we get into that, tell me and tell us about what were the highlights, what were some of the images that you feel are going to be iconic as time passes. See, at the moment, everything is beautiful because you're capturing the moment and you're doing it at all the matches. But as time passes, are there certain images that will come to signify 2023 for you and for us?
Well, actually, the moment of the tournament was really Kohli getting his 50th century. I mean, the magic of Wankhede, because I'll tell you something, small stadiums like Wankhede are where you need to see cricket. A big stadium like the final Narendra Modi Stadium is the worst place to see cricket. It's just too huge. Even the press lounges, the boxes
will not give you that
view. It doesn't give you the view. So where you see what you see is also important. So Wankhede was absolutely perfect. And Kohli, I have never seen that emotion ever being exhibited on a cricket ground ever. It was like an opera moment. He created an operatic aria. He just twirl, he did his bit, and we all knew it. So we had all moved to a particular position where we were in the center of the ground so that we could shoot him in all angles. And it's something that'll stay with me forever because, to see that emotion that he displayed and the dedication with which he plays the game, it's unreal. Kohli is truly the greatest Indian cricketer ever. There can be never two doubt about that. A lot of his being compared with Sachin is a bit of a overkill because actually he's leaps ahead. And nobody wants to say that, but because Sachin is sort of a demigod in India.
Yes.
But, Sachin played cricket at a time that there was not so much of scrutiny on it, Virat plays modern day cricket where the game has changed and he's achieved his feat in almost half the number of innings that Sachin has done. And, Sachin was a quiet, good boy, his dimples and his lovely smile. He never said anything controversial in his life. He never spoke in the parliament. So that's Sachin for you. he's like the perfect wallpaper. So that everybody in the country, likes him. But it's Kohli who has the personality. And to get to see that personality finally getting an out after his 50th century was just phenomenal.
Okay, so that's what you will remember this
That's
tournament.
something I remember.
Yeah.
Even, there are lots of things I remember of the World Cup, but, for me, the joy was always watching the team practice about 45 minutes before the game when they entered the ground. And because of I had the luxury of a long lens, I could actually zoom into their expressions when a particular wicket or a milestone they were about to reach. Now, that's priceless because the television camera is a great way of seeing cricket. It's phenomenal because on the ground you can't really see cricket. You can't see the ball swing.
Yeah.
But it never delivers on emotion because it's always trying to show the ball and the bat. So for me as a photographer, it's all about emotions. So I have a plethora of images which are hopefully I'll be able to put them together as a reel or maybe as an exhibition at some point.
I can imagine because I saw the double spread that Hindustan Times carried of the team. And what was interesting to me was there were portraits. How do you, as a photographer, given the plethora of images that you've just referred to that you have over over a match day, and then over so many matches, how do you distill all that into, okay, these are the images that I'm going to you go with? Is it a difficult choice? How give us a little bit, give us an into the craft, into what's happening, into how you do what you do.
No, the portraits in the Hindustan Times were quite ordinary to my mind. They were decent portraits, they were competent, but there's nothing great about them. I mean, you'll see some of the other images which I think are special. But the thing is, I don't have the luxury of them posing for me. All right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Even though I am on the ground and the vantage position, the players are constantly moving around. So nobody's really sitting and posing for me. Very few of them come close to the boundary for us to do. So every now and then for me, the light that falls on a cricketer, his eyes. And, when you try to do different portraits, you try to get a sense of the character. I mean, Virat is all intensity. Shami is all determination. Rohit is a relaxed guy. So I got him a smiling shot. Kuldeep also smiles a lot. So you try to keep it true to the cricketer's basic nature.
The essence of that human being in that image. What else was interesting to you in the final? There was in the end of the game, we saw the heartbreak. We saw, we saw some of it on television. You want to describe what you saw at that time? What are some of the images that you have that we may see later?
I'll tell you, a lot is made about the aggression of the opposing teams and the fact that the Australians are aggressive. I'll tell you something. In the last 5-7 years, it's all changed. All this so-called aggression has come to naught because all these cricketers from different nations are depending on India for their contracts. They cannot afford to rub the Indian board or the Indian players or even the fans the wrong way. So they are more than accommodating. They're actually, it's funny to see them so utterly servile and nice to Indian cricketers. If you're asking me what I saw after the World Cup final, I saw Maxwell giving Kohli the hug, which was the most genuine hug I've ever seen. I saw these cricketers coming up to Kohli, realizing what he was on the cusp of greatness, and they all felt for him because they all believe that he is the greatest cricketer of this generation. And for me, it was not Kohli going up to congratulate them. It was the Australians, each one of them coming up to Kohli and feeling for him and feeling for that magic that never happened. So, this aggression, the ICC, in any case, as we all know, has been emasculated by BCCI. So it's all changed. It's funny. Everybody, even on the field, they're just constantly being nice to Indian cricketers. So it's like, where is that aggression? Where is that? It's different. It's very professional.
Right. And you think all of this change is for the better of Indian cricket? How is the Indian cricket ecosystem wearing this power? Is it wearing it with grace or is it flexing muscle? Because a lot of people believe it's the latter, isn't it?
No, the Indian board has not dealt with this well at all, which is one of the reasons why we lost. I blame the hyperbole completely on the media, the board. I saw the semi-final too. I saw the body language of the players after the game. I saw the conversations between the powers that be. It felt like they had won the World Cup at the semi-final stage. And, there was a degree of overconfidence. And I'm not saying that the players, but I think it got to the team. They took it for granted that this is going to be easy. And Australians did play better cricket. A couple of cricketers underperformed. So we have to say what is true. I don't think the Indian board really, it did what it could. What was the best thing about the final? The air parade of the Indian planes, the acrobats. Before that, otherwise, in the game of 8 hours, there were only 15 minutes where the Indian audiences were animated and participated. It was just quietest final I have ever seen. I saw the final in South Africa too. I saw the final in England too, the last World Cup between England and, it was a final bereft of any energy because it never really took off.
We've been speaking before this recording, and I was very struck by something that you've said that you noticed and that you liked very much, and that is how kind this team is to each other and how much of sort of emotional support this Indian cricket team provides each other and encouragement it offers. Give us a little bit more insight into what you noticed.
I have never seen a team quite like this in Indian cricket for a long time. There is a genuine fondness and affection for each other. And with the bowlers, like if Bumrah is bowling, if Siraj is bowling, it's Bumrah who's always coming up and saying things to him. And same way with Shami, the three space bowlers were all together. The bowlers were all constantly together. And I couldn't see there was any degree of competition between one member of the team vis-a-vis the other. Exceptionally supportive to each other. And this is not something that you can conjure up or you can pretend on the field. And as photographers, we can always see more. And we can certainly see more because we have a long lens. So, there can be a moment when you can get it. I saw no irritation when somebody dropped a catch. I didn't see anger. I didn't see anything which led me to believe that this team X doesn't like Y. The kind of stuff that media keeps talking about, I saw complacency. I saw complacency in Surya Kumar in the final. I singularly think that he underperformed throughout the tournament. And, it's not, as a cricket fan, I have a right to express my disappointment. I was hugely disappointed with what he did. Basically, he's a T20 player. And I think the media, we are singularly responsible in our country for making superstars of cricketers very young. Shubham Gill, let the boy have a chance to play a decent round of cricket and before making him the next superstar, the next Sachin, the next Virat. He underperformed too. And so it's time that we just, we be a little measured in our approach to our cricketers. Let them not feel that they have achieved greatness at 21 or at whatever tender age that they're playing cricket. Let them prove themselves in the game for a little while before we go overboard. I think, and the media, look at all the commentators. I'm looking on my social media feeds. It's not that I'm negative or I'm pessimistic. I'm not positive about my team, for God's sake. There has to be, it's an Indian team, but it's cricket. It's unpredictable. So don't just take things for granted. And I saw a lot of that hyperbole throughout the World Cup. Friends telling me, oh, we'll win. Oh, we'll do this. Oh, we'll, quite honestly, I thought New Zealand was the game with New Zealand. I was very worried about that. We were lucky we won the toss. And I think with this game too, with the final, if we had won the toss, it would have been, and if we were chasing, it would have been a totally different kettle of fish. So, so much, I haven't still gotten over the loss. So it's not like.
I can see that you've not gotten over the loss. And I think you express the emotions that all of India or most people in India are feeling. So that's all right. I think people will relate to what you're saying. And
there are two kinds of reactions. Either people are being very nice and so, oh, wonderful, we're such a wonderful team, we had 10 players, or then the others who are saying everything is wrong. No, everything is not wrong. Rohit and Virat singularly and Shami four people of the team can't win you a tournament. Everybody has to play. So everybody did play its part to a large extent, but some didn't. So it's time to call some of those guys out without being unkind to them. But, it's like, and, I was also very, in the couple of articles that I wrote, I was very respectful to the leadership of Rohit and Dravid. But then now after the final, I also feel a little different because, I saw how Kane Williamson was playing the semi-final. he showed us a certain desperation when the Indians were getting away. He was changing his bowlers every 1 or 2 hours. There was a bit of an urgency on the team. I found that missing in the final. When things were not quite going our way, I wanted the dressing room or the messages to be a little more, this is serious. A billion people, I'm telling you, a billion people had a very uncomfortable that night. They all felt a bit underdone by what we saw that day. So, I mean, surely some other intensity also needs to reflect in the team management who have to make, and I feel that on a given day, on a final, you can't be laid back on the final day. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I hear your disappointment, Rohit, and it's interesting that Virat's 50 and Virat Kohli as the cricketer is who you think this tournament is going to be remembered with, isn't it? For you, especially personally.
Him and Shami, because for the first 3 games, I saw Shami as a drinks boy. Yes. He used to wear that dip and the drinks and come to the field. And I saw Shardul. I never saw any anger in him. He is a very mild-mannered, quiet man, very happy that he's gone so far in life. And so he's grateful for all that he's achieved. And, to see him come into its own, to see him get a fair deal in the end. And, it's by accident. Let's not pretend that this was meant to be, or the powers that be in cricket. I mean, Shardul, because Hardik Pandya got injured, so Shami went in. And I have a thing I have been seeing Hardik Pandya at the semi-final. He's been kind of okay for the last 7-8 days. Nobody's talking about it. He could have been brought in for the final. The team just felt that we are so successful. We have been doing so well and didn't want to upset the apple cart. But, great teams are also made of taking some brave decisions. And, if you had seen Surya Kumar underperforming in that tournament, you could have bought a Hardik Pandya for the final. You could have given him a game before that. And I don't really think that Hardik was so utterly unwell that he couldn't have been brought in earlier and he couldn't have played the final. It was just that we let it be in the face of successful run. So lots of ifs and buts. I'm not the perfect cricket commentator or somebody with this astute vision, but my astute vision extends to the fact that I can see them up close, and as a photographer, I see more.
Rohit, I'll put one final question to you, and that is, in this day and age where the mobile phone has democratized photography and everybody shooting everybody and everything around them and themselves, the power of the image, has in a sense got devalued, and to make a great image and one that has impact is even tougher. So how do you see your craft and your art in the context of editorial photography, which is what I would put the cricket photography that you've done at this World Cup? How do what I mean is photographing the moment, right? You're not setting it up, you're capturing the moment. What do you make of the role of the photographer and your images? I mean, I know you said that you don't think that some of the best images were in that HT double spread, but my God, I don't see photographs in newspapers, and I wish they would use photographs much more, much more powerfully, because a great image can just, create a subconscious narrative, right?
This will take 2 minutes for me to answer it. Yes, photography has been democratized. And let me also be very upfront and say, photography now is the lowest minimum wage job in America. To give you a parameter, almost everybody is a photographer. My cook, my driver, everybody takes decent pictures. So as a photographer, it's not enough to document anymore, because it's like putting a recording switch and being able to see people talk, it's as basic as that. So unless you bring your own sensibility or create something from scratch, as a photographer, you're never going to be relevant. So that's the brand of photography I do in my fine art world. There is nothing which is like I go to a Chandni Chowk or a Ladakh and I shoot, wrinkled faces and put a black and white filter, then expect them to sell at an art fair. They won't. People are not interested. But when it comes to occasions like the World Cup cricket, now that is documentation. That's a part of history. It has a certain value. some years from now, maybe not now. Kohli's 50th century and his jump in the air, it will stay with me, So there's a fine line between editorial photography, fine art photography, and photographic documentation. So one has to do different things as a photographer to stay relevant. Among the entire tournament, there was one photograph that stayed with me, and maybe you can put it at the end of it. It's when the Australian team just won, and Kohli was walking back. He took his cap and he covered his face and eyes. There were no hands anywhere. And he was walking with the yellow Australians celebrating. To me, that was the picture of the tournament, because this was his tournament. And that was only one of the images that I will put on my wall, because it was not mere documentation. It went somewhere to photojournalism at its good, I wouldn't say best, to the place there. So sometimes you get some good images, sometimes you don't. What if Kohli hadn't put that cap on top of his head? Or even if he had put it with his two hands, it would have made no sense. So there's a sense of timing to all of that, I'm an old world romantic, so I started photography when I was in school, and when the very fact that you had a camera, you became a photographer. But that's not true anymore. Everybody has a camera now. So if you have to be a successful photographer, you create from scratch like a painter, like an artist. It's your canvas. You need to own every bit of what is on the canvas. So I own the model, I own the clothes, I own the composition, I own the prop. So, and I am also of the opinion that, I go for a lot of these glossy shoots, for big editorial magazines. There are about 20 people on a set. There's ex-top stars, makeup artist, his hair person. So who does the photograph really belong to? Yeah, it's an entourage of 20 people. Who does the photograph really belong to? It belongs to, everybody thinks it belongs to them, And for me, when I go and do my portraits, I do it alone, without a light. So I practice something called the quiet portrait, where I feel that the image belongs to me. So if I've got some moments in this World Cup of portraits of these characters, well, they belong to me because I was there alone with my long camera, and there was nobody else. And it was that moment in time, that point in the game. So yes.
Rohit, I think the passion that you bring to your work, whether it's portraits or fine art photography, something that you've conceptualized and imagined and set up, and the passion you feel for India's cricket performance and the Indian team, it's coming through very clearly in this conversation. Thank you very much. You were very lucky to see something up close. People just dream about it and scramble over tickets that they can't afford.
But I have something to add. I discovered something wonderful at the game.
Which is?
I thought the best seat in the tournament was to sit on the ground with a long lens. No, there's the bestest seat. You know what? I position myself next to what is called the buggy camera. A buggy camera is a camera, the buggy camera operator who sits on the field and operates a camera that's going around the thing.
Yeah.
And then he sits with the HD feed of the television, that's the feed that's going to television. So imagine you sitting there. I must send that to you. You're watching the buggy camera, you're watching the television up front, and you're watching the ground, and you have your long lens. So it's like Mrs. Ambani couldn't buy that privilege if she paid billions for it.
So the buggy camera man, that's the best seat in the house.
Buggy camera on the ground and the TV and the game, lethal combination.
Rohit, lovely talking to you. I'm looking forward to seeing an exhibition with the images that you've got from here, or a book which traverses the 30 years that you've seen cricketers up close. It'll be great.
Well, let me just say, there was supposed to be a coffee table book, and it had a huge print run, but the powers that we decided not to print the book anymore because we lost the cup.
Wow. I mean, we should celebrate what it was, isn't it, in any case, because it was pretty phenomenal what this Indian team was, and the way you've described what you saw, how you saw this team come together. Thank you, Rohit. Lovely talking to you, and I hope people will get to see many of these images. Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.